Hello, everyone. Welcome to a very special live stream today to celebrate the 10-year birthday of Disability Horizons. That I and Srin here, who will be having a good chinwag and nostalgic reminiscing in the live stream, co-founded 10 years ago. But I want to get something out the way first. Cash has got like party popper, and it's just completely didn't work. There we go. The party popper's gone off. I'm now less nervous and anxious that that's going to knock my head off. Thank you for that. And we got the balloon up and the DH t-shirt. So we're all branded and ready to go, Shrim. But good to catch up with you, mate.
Well, happy birthday to collectively us, right?
I know, right? 10 years. I mean, I've seen the photos that the team at DH have been sharing around, and we definitely had more hair, less grey hair, all that kind of stuff.
I know, but hopefully we've been wiser after those 10 years, right? But
I'd like to think so.
I like to think so in some way, but I do miss a full head of hair.
Yeah, well, we're older but wiser. That's definitely the case.
Exactly.
Obviously, we're doing this quite unscripted. I think natural and authentic is always the way. But I guess just for everyone watching, we want to share a bit kind of what we were both up to prior to the launch, and generally a bit over 10 years ago, where the idea came from, the challenges of launching it, and then the ups and downs through the years. I think that's the kind of agenda for today. But Shrin, do you want to kick off just a bit? Kind of what were you doing 10, 11 years ago before DH became an idea?
When I had the full head of hair. So
exactly.
Then, 10 years ago. So gosh, it seems like just another epoch ago, doesn't it? So I was a slightly bored solicitor, or not slightly bored, a very bored solicitor in London. I had taken about 4 to 5 months off to go traveling. And I had sort of come back in early 2011, just feeling very enthused by the experience that I had, but also just feeling slightly, I don't know, I guess in a rut, maybe a good way of describing it, in the sense of we had this amazing high of traveling and just exploring the world and seeing some really cool stuff, and then just feeling stuck in the day job and not feeling particularly inspired. And yeah, I suppose a lot of what started then was us trying to kind of share that energy and enthusiasm we had for such things with the wider world. So I guess in a nutshell, yeah, this time 10 years ago, or maybe 10 years ago in 1 month, a bored lawyer with a lot of energy wanting to do something interesting.
Yeah, I think, as you say, it's that general kind of, we'd probably both similar stage of life, that we'd done the uni bit, done the job bit, and it was a bit tick, but then also there was a sort of what next, and wanting to do something different.
Yeah.
That restlessness.
I wasn't even different. I think we wanted to make a difference, right? We wanted to do something positive. We wanted to do something with something bigger than just simply ourselves, right? That could resonate to the world and beyond.
100%. Yeah, and then obviously this film, but for anyone watching, I was at Scope, so it's not so much lawyer. It was not for profit, but I think very similar to you, Shrin. I was in an office and I was sort of wanting to see more of the world. And then I think you'd done a much longer, bigger trip that in sort of 2010. But I took, a week, 10 days off work from Scope, and we met in California. And I think that was probably the kind of, where were we when we had not the launch, but when we had the idea, was our big California road trip. So do you want to just share a little bit more about the Cali road trip?
I know. So yeah, part of that time off, yes, we got together in California and did a road trip, which was to this day the most extraordinary time ever. And I think we were just sort of bowling down some Californian highway in a cliched way, just thinking how can we share this amazing experience and what we've learned on it to the world. We've done so much research to make this trip work. We've done so much research around what could we do? And it was thinking, okay, how do we create some kind of forum or platform where all the things that we had learned about traveling and independent living and all the things that we cared about, how do we better disseminate it to the world, or actually give a voice for others to disseminate similar things? So yeah, it was I suppose, yeah, rolling down those roads that I guess we both got inspired to, like, well, what could we together do?
Yeah, I mean, maybe 10 years on, you can like overly perfection and romanticize how it happened. But I mean, my genuine memory, it was a particular moment. We were on the beach in LA, so we sort of met up in San Francisco.
Manhattan Beach, right?
That's right, yeah. And so we done
Yeah.
like San Francisco was kind of a bit rainy and a bit colder because it was like November, right,
Windy.
in 2010.
Windy. Yeah, it ain't
And
good
then
there in November.
we went to Vegas, which was surprisingly freezing. So when we got to LA, it was like,
We've done
wow.
Yosemite before that, right? Yosemite and then Vegas.
That's right, yeah. And it was all cold, wasn't it? Like we had snow
Yeah.
tires in Yosemite. Yeah. So yeah, it was like proper cold weather. And me and you have always been sun seekers and solar powered, right? So then we got to LA, and I think, as you just said, there was that we wanted to share our experience, but a sort of platform for others to share their experiences, whatever those types of experiences might be. And I think as the warm sun kicked in, the creative juices got flowing. I think that was when we first said, what about a magazine, a platform that could
share these experiences we had, right, and build a community around it.
And it would be lifestyle. I think, there was certainly at that time a lot of political publications. So we weren't against anything about political publications, but it was more a gap at the time for lifestyle that would be very positive, can do. So I guess that was where the idea kind of really.
And I think it was also sort of taking further what you had already like started brilliantly in terms of your blog. And I kind of feel, I know I say it sort of rather naively and innocently now, but like it did feel sort of like day one of the social internet back then. Like, okay, even though Facebook, Twitter had been around for a number of years, like it still felt like a slightly innocent day one of the internet. And I think, you had brilliantly started building that community and that forum around your blog. And it was sort of, okay, how do we sort of, again, together build upon that? And I think that gap around building community online was like massively overlooked, I think, with established organizations at the time. And I do truly believe that we definitely, I think we're trying to sort of build community for the first time purely online.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, there's going to be a few shout outs, I'm sure, as we go through the narrative of how this unfolded. But I spoke to AJ in the week from the Misfits, and they were, again, I think I saw the article was disseminated, our first ever sort of after, it was maybe 2012, but it was after like 9 months of running. And we were talking about how, we sort of put together, again, we'll get into some of the tangible nuts and bolts in a minute too. But it was like people like AJ, obviously Liz is going to come on and say hi later.
Yeah.
Then
that's so much to help us get off the ground.
Exactly. And it was almost that community were part of the founding team as much as the community of people that were reading the articles. There was sort of layers of the onion where certain people got right stuck in with us because they were so inspired. And obviously like the masses were the readers that, have come and gone as they've wanted to over the years as well. But yeah, I think, as you say, there was definitely that harnessing the how to have a bloggy platform and build a community with social media. And AJ and Melissa and the Misfits were very kind in their kind of mentoring to us as well. So yeah, just good to give those little shout outs as we go. And he couldn't believe it was 10 years when I was chatting to him.
I know, right?
Crazy. We're sounding like proper old people now. But so yeah, I guess let's move into, like, we had that idea. We then finished off the holiday. We came back to our respective jobs in the sort of November. We met Jack Black, do you remember, at the airport in LA? And he did that little kind of songy video, and all that sort of stuff was amazing. So what are your memories from coming back and obviously coming up to Christmas? And then obviously it's the 10th of April when we launched. Do you remember much about those few months in between?
It's I guess, time has made things a little fuzzy, but I do recall us just talking loads and just like really kind of just talking lots about different ideas and how we could get stuff started, or what blogs could we create, or just, we had this amazing experience. Like, how do we bring it to a wider, like, how do we sort of amplify the voice? How do we build something that's a bigger sounding board? And, I just feel like there were just lots of late night conversations, brainstorming as to like what we could do. And I think, over time it was like, oh, let's put together a WordPress blog and let us see what we can do. And I think again it goes back to sort of it was a bit of a day one for the social internet, like probably 5-10 years earlier, before the WordPresses and things like that of the world were around. I think it would have been incredibly much harder and more expensive to do it, but like we were able to get something together up and running like just for nothing practically.
And I suppose one point to make is it wasn't definitively a business pursuit at that point.
No.
Obviously it evolved and there were points that we created products, and again we'll come on to some of that soon, but I think at that time there was like zero funding and there was zero need to monetize it. It was all about the social impact. And so fortunately there were those tools you said that were very lower cost and affordable. And there was a bit of upskilling and learning, but at the same time quite user friendly as well, right?
And it made like a massive difference. And it just meant that we had this idea, a little bit fuzzy, a little bit undefined. We could try and take it off the ground.
Yeah, exactly. So I know a bit like you, it's a bit of a haze, but we both lived in London, so we both were back at the day jobs, but then we would meet up.
You lived in London back then.
I know, 5 years, right? I was in Hackney. we used to go out, near your flat on the South Bank and grab food, and I guess it is that again. It's to romanticize it, but it is just that amazing time of
something useful, right? We just wanted to create something useful, and then let's just see where we took it from there. And I think again, like when we were organizing those first articles, I don't think we had any the reality is I don't think we had any massive plan, right? Like it was, let's just find useful, interesting articles that resonated with us, and let's just put stuff out there and see what happens.
Well, and it was always very personal experiences. So you would write, I would write, and we just wrote about what we cared about and what mattered to us. And I think that passion and that human authenticity, then other people were like, hey, I'd love to write about my holiday or my experience with dating. And I think we did always joke that whenever we wanted to boost the hits a bit, a good old sex article would always do the job.
Got people interested. And I also just remember when the first set of articles went live, I just remember how excited we both were just when people started emailing us and we read something. And again, it's just funny thinking about it now, just the excitement that we both had when we just got emails that people had been reading what we had wrote, and it's just fascinating just to think back on it now.
Yeah, absolutely. And so as I say, Liz is our editor who joined pretty soon after we launched, so we can go into a bit of a deeper dive when Liz joins later into the content, because she really took hold of that, which I think you and I enjoyed writing, but we weren't editors and it wasn't our forte to be doing the editing. So we'll definitely come back to that in a minute.
And if we did edit it, just me and you just weren't very good at it.
It was just check for spelling and punctuation. But
I'm not good at the limits, right?
Liz was obviously amazing at bringing that, tone of voice and that curation of different
style
articles.
Guide.
Style guide. I remember that. God, exactly, the DH style guide. Wow, that does take me back. So we'll double down on that when Liz joins in a little while. But what about, so we had the platform, then we had the content, the writers, but what are your recollection of the growth of the readership, the sort of marketing of DH?
Again, it was just lots of fun just sharing it with people and plugging what we were doing on social media and just building out building relationships with other influencers and thought leaders online and getting them getting them to write and just seeing the kind of the flywheel, really. Like, we would put great content out there, more people would join the community, they then would write things that then would bring in more people, and it was just a lot of fun watching that flywheel turn.
Yeah, and I guess because it wasn't, as we said before, a business or a plan of something specific, then there was no pressure for it to be anything number-wise. It was obviously we wanted more writers and more readers, but there wasn't
the pressure was we just wanted to be useful and interesting. That
exactly.
I think that was the ultimate pressure.
So my bigger memory around how we grew it, which is essentially I'm kind of pondering, was I think you're right. Like, it was, we just told friends, and it just grew quite organically. But then maybe it was a year or so after, but we had a Guardian article. Remember that?
Yes, that was kind of then that we had a massive boost from that on that feature, didn't we?
Yeah, and also I remember it was very interesting that the more political activist disabled people somehow took umbrage and offense with what we did, because they thought we were talking about things that weren't as serious or important. I think that was a learning curve for us, that
totally, and that we had to sort of think about how it was a lot. It just gave us a lot to think about how we just make sure all voices are included.
Yeah, and I think also that the clarity of what DH was and what it wasn't. So you can't please everybody, and not to take anything negative personally, definitely to respect the different voices, but also we were always clear it wasn't a political publication, and that was fine as well, kind of thing.
I also remember we get another massive boost around the London 2012 games. Like, do you remember we were sort of doing daily kind of wrap-up updates of what had happened in the Paralympics the day before, and people really engaging with it, and just I think there was just a whole big push around the time, and sort of what Channel 4 were doing, and I do think we sort of rode that wave a little bit as well.
Yeah, and that's an interesting sort of general observation and trend, right? That disability, I think, got more airtime, didn't it? More general sort of acknowledgement.
More conscious of it.
Yeah, from the mainstream. Yeah. So the other topic I've got is, I guess, around business model. And I say, Liz is in the green room. We're bringing her in a couple of minutes to, I think it'd be good to get Liz's input and insights on some of those parts, and obviously looking to the future. But just last point before we bring Liz in, just any particular recollections of products and kind of business models we tried?
Yeah, I think we tried everything.
Yeah.
I think, and I think it's still a question to this day, right? Like, it is not easy making a disability focused product sustainable financially in the long run. And I think first us, and then sort of as you've taken things further, you've done the most wonderful job of making sure that at least things can sort of look after themselves. But it is a challenge, right? And I think a formula was found, but it took a lot of trying. And if there's other sort of entrepreneurs or budding entrepreneurs sort of viewing this, I think that would be probably one of the biggest take-home learnings of those years for both of us, right? That you just have to try different things, and it's often hard to know what's going to work until you maybe see what happens after the event.
Yeah, and I think for me there was just a lot of ideation and incubation through meeting other writers and readers and the articles and knowing what mattered. I remember we did a discount, sort of DH discount thing, and and I guess what my general thought really is that a Commable spun out of it, which became its own business, and Purple Goat has sort of spun from it. So I think there's definitely
acted like an incubator. It's acted like sort of the incubator.
Exactly, and I think that is testament to all the team and the hard work over those 10 years, that it that energy and that disruption that we had 10 years ago has continued.
And may long continue further.
Definitely. Well, that's a great time to bring Liz in, I think.
Hey.
Hello, Liz.
Hi, Liz.
Hello. How are you?
Very well, thanks. How are you doing today?
Good. Good seeing you guys together.
The team is back.
Indeed.
The dream team.
So Liz, for anyone watching that doesn't know, which I'm sure is pretty very few, if none, but to give a little intro to, I guess, just that also the recollection of how we met and how you got involved in DH really would be great.
Yeah, so I've pretty much my whole career been a journalist, and when I think about how long that is, I think I keep saying over 12 years, but I think it's even over 13 or 14 years now. You start to forget when it gets too long. And I was always interested in a publication that was kind of a lifestyle publication for disabled people. My brother had disabilities. He was quite severely, had cerebral palsy. And, he was always just such an outgoing kind of person. And at the time, you guys touched on this earlier, like there wasn't a lot of stuff around like that. If there was campaigning stuff, which is of course important, you need that, but there wasn't anything really lifestyle. And so I always kind of wanted that to be a thing. So when I started in journalism, I was just sort of keeping an eye on blogs and different sort of disabled influencers, including you guys. And I saw that you'd, created Disability Horizons and had a call out for sort of, anyone that could help. And obviously my background being journalism, writing, and specifically online, I've always really pretty much worked online. So SEO, search engine optimization, is my bag. I find it far too exciting than I should. So, I was really keen to get involved. It was sort of a perfect fit, really. So I just messaged you guys, and I think we probably met up the next week or the next few days. I don't think it was far long. And I suppose, as they say, the rest is history, really. I almost can't remember exactly how it went from that to me basically editing everything and commissioning everything. But I think that's
I just vaguely recall that we all met near Liverpool Street somewhere.
There was a fountain at Liverpool Street.
Yeah, it sounds really
exactly
romantic, doesn't it? Idealistic.
There is a lot.
Fountain.
There is a lot of romantic nostalgia about the story. Maybe we've made it up to make it sound better on the way, but I genuinely remember it that way. Yeah.
Well, I had my first date with my husband near Liverpool Street Station as well, so it's clearly an important place.
So I guess we sort of touched, I think you were watching in the green room, it's like we talked a bit about the sort of key points from launch and a bit beyond. Obviously, you've been more and more at the helm as a Commonwealth happened, as Purple Goats happened, and Srin and I are still very much cheering DH on and getting involved at different points as we can. But I guess partly it would be good to hear from you how the content evolved from those earlier days, and then just a little bit of an update where it's at the moment, really.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's sort of hard to sort of think back exactly what things were like, but I think really when we started, it was very much, people get in contact. We had quite a lot of interest, didn't we, from people that just wanted to get involved in it, and whether it's volunteering or writing in some sort of way. And I think over the years, we've, built up a kind of bigger and bigger team. I mean, now it's nearly sort of 20 of us. So
wow.
It's a big team that's actually kind of really regularly involved in the publication. And people have, sort of come in and come out, and we've always been this almost, well, obviously we're based on the community. We've always been this kind of big family. And once you've kind of done some volunteering with us or some writing with us, people kind of come back in and
never leave.
What was that?
Like you can't leave then. That's
exactly.
Yeah.
Once you've been initiated into the family, you can't leave. And that's been really lovely, just sort of seeing the transition of different people kind of coming in. And I think in part that helped to sort of shape the content and actually talking to more people, like you guys said earlier, with different experiences and really putting that into sort of what we were doing. And then obviously, as I was saying, from an SEO point of view, starting to really think a bit more pragmatically about, well, actually we want to reach more people with this. So, and a great way to do that is kind of SEO and content that we know people are going to want to read. So, I mean, we've published it this week. We've got 10 articles that are our most popular of all time. And I mean, the top had like 170,000 views since.
Which one was it?
It's an interview with Lucy Martin, who's a BBC weather presenter, and I think there wasn't a lot of other content about her at the time, and she was on BBC Weather all the time. So people seeing her on TV, coming in and finding us, and that's part of what I love with what we do. We talk to our audience and our readers, but I think particularly with SEO, we're probably getting a lot of people who haven't really thought about disability before, maybe, or suddenly have a question about it, or, you know, have seen something, and so they find us and their eyes are sort of open to the world of, exactly, again, as you said at the beginning, about just actually it's about living a life and just, you know, enjoying life, and as we said, campaigning is important. There's a lot of negative stuff that's got to be addressed, but equally we want to be able to give disabled people the tool to just, you know, enjoy their lives as much as they can.
And we did actually have Disability United, which was a sort of sister brand that was more campaigning, but I think ultimately it made sense to bring it all into the Horizons brand and the family. And there is more campaigning stuff
there is
now on Horizons, isn't there?
And it's funny that sort of I would say 5 or 6 years ago we kind of definitely didn't really do much campaigning stuff, but there's been a lot more of a shift, unfortunately, that there is more stuff that just needs to be campaigned about and talked about. So yeah, we have a bit more of a balance now of kind of both things, but, you know, still, again, the main aim is giving people the tools they need to live the life they choose. So, you know, and whether that's something that actually involves sort of campaigning a little bit and trying to sort of make a difference, or whether that's just advice around a topic. So yeah, it's a good balance, but again, the lifestyle is still the key thing, and letting people just live as they wish.
And just because I think it'd be good to give like some examples, which sort of briefly referenced, but just from your point now, Liz, what are those kind of broader topics, or even like a couple of particular examples of, you know, how an article has given certain tips and advice?
I have to say, our sex and relationships area, it's a big area that I really wanted to do more.
Still the same, Srin. Still the same.
Still the same.
Right from the beginning, exactly.
Don't change, do they?
Definitely not, because it's just not talked about enough, really. And
those are like 10 years later,
yeah, and it's in those topics, those articles do immensely well, because, you know, there just isn't the other stuff out there. And actually, again, what we try and do is be really open and really honest, and kind of just, you know, it's sex. We all have sex. So you know, I think that's a really good example of one that has an area that's done sort of really well. I mean, travel, obviously, before COVID, you know, was also one of the really big areas that I think was particularly well for us. And then, but it's funny how, you know, just different people's stories. I think seeing people from different walks of life or different disabilities, and having that real range. We've always been, you know, across every disability really, and chronic illness as well. And I'm trying to do more on mental health as well, because although it's not kind of a disability, it's, you know, in many ways it can be disabled. I think as well, just that in itself, that sort of breadth and coverage of sort of every kind of area, really.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for that. And obviously, you know, over the years, as sort of said, Srin and I've had different sort of involvement. Obviously, I'm still kind of working with you, Liz, just to try and give some support and advice from the sidelines, but you very much taken on the CEO role and the editor-in-chief role. I was thinking from your side, Srin, I mean, how has it been, you know, the last sort of 2, 3, 4 years where you've been less involved, watching from a distance? How do you see that it's evolved in that time?
Well, clearly, the less me and you do, Martin, I think the better. The better.
I appreciate I put you in a corner there without meaning to about it.
But I think, honestly, like the less me and you do, I think the better the content gets. I think that's one learning. I think the second piece is just seeing things evolve, and just like, you see that wheel turning faster and faster year upon year, and just again, like seeing back from afar, just I think, you know, when we started 10 years ago, it was like a slightly niche outpost, kind of, you know, the new pretender out there, whereas actually, like, seeing DH evolve into like one of the leading voices online and like the leading communities online has just been like just incredible to kind of see to see that grow.
Yeah, I agree with that. 100% agree with all those points. Liz, what future really? I think that's probably where we'll move our conversation before we wrap. I mean, you've written an article you published about your sort of ideas for the next 10 years, but the sort of general, the future. Do you want to just give a couple of key thoughts or share a key point on that?
Yeah, and funnily enough, I was going to say, having edited the publication for 10 years and been on board with it, that's the first article I've actually written for Disability Rights and everything.
Really?
Yeah, so that's actually the first kind of, I was going to say pen to paper, but fingers to keyboard. But yeah, I've always had loads and loads of kind of plans and visions in my head for where we can go, and I think we've really crystallized that in the last year or couple of years as to what we can kind of actually see in the future. And I think, and whether that's 10 years or sooner, might be even sooner, but I think just growing the community so much bigger, that's the first thing, and becoming even more of a hub. I think we're already, as we said, a hub in so many ways, but I want that to expand even further and to almost be a place that not only can people kind of come and connect and get sort of entertainment, lifestyle kind of advice, but also, to actually get other services and things. We've started working with Even Break, so it's a jobs board. I'm sure lots of people know about it. And we've actually got that feed on our website now. So I'd really love to expand that out wider so that actually people coming to our website can find, travel companies or review companies or, organizations in lots of different areas who are also doing fantastic things, and just sort of connect us all up a little bit more to really make us even more of a hub. I definitely want to get more of the community actually onto the website. So we started our Facebook group a couple of years ago, D Horizons Tribe, for anyone that's not kind of in it. And really that was a bit of a trial just to see if our readers actually wanted to talk to each other and kind of connect with each other. And we've got more, nearly 2,000 people in there now. So, I'd really like to bring that actually onto the website and give people a wider sort of forum community they can kind of really connect with each other. And I'd really love to give writers and entrepreneurs, again, as you guys said, like an incubator sort of phase, really give them even more of a kind of platform to actually show their work. So we recently started contributor profiles on the website. So now all of our kind of regular writers have actually got a kind of full page that shows all of the stuff, like a bit of a portfolio really. And I think that quite neatly fits with the shop. So on the entrepreneur side, so we started a shop beginning of last year, and it's done amazingly well. Obviously all of us and the team have had a lot of connections and experiences over the years with different products and different kind of businesses, and it just felt like a really good time to actually say, well, we know all these great companies, we know these great gadgets, let's pull it together in a kind of curated way. And as I say, that's doing really well, so I want that to kind of grow further, and again use that as a platform for disabled entrepreneurs. We've got quite a few of the products on there are invented by disabled people already, and we want to expand that out in hopefully soon, not too distant future. We're going to have a second-hand equipment site as well, so that people can actually sell their aids or whatever it is, mobility aids that they don't kind of need anymore, so it doesn't go to landfill and someone else can kind of use it. So lots of things, really, lots of things, but the main thing is just becoming that bigger hub, that bigger community that people can really be involved in and hopefully get advice and connection and live their best life. That's what it's all about.
Amazing. Yeah, it's exciting to hear the ideas and all the momentum that's still going on. Obviously a question that's not that surprising to anyone to hear the word influencer, with obviously the purple goat stuff as well. But how have you sort of felt and found the shift in the way influencers are in the world in general, but particularly disabled influencers, has been alongside and with a platform like Horizons?
Yeah, it's been amazing. It was interesting when you said about the 2012 Paralympics. I mean, I feel like that was the start of quite a big shift, just not necessarily influencers, but just representation in general. And it's been steady since, but I think particularly again in the last kind of couple of years, that feels like that's really ramped up, with so many more sort of disabled people with different conditions represented on TV, or as we say, influencers in all sort of different areas. And I think that partially represents what's happening to the internet and blogs. We're doing more and more stuff on social media, and we definitely want to do more stuff with our kind of social media channels. But I think again, it's lovely that it starts to feel that shift of just starting to get people to realize that disabled people aren't different. They're all people, and we should actually just be an inclusive society that doesn't kind of see difference. So yeah, it's nice that the shift is starting to happen, but there's still lots to do. There's lots to work on.
Yeah, I think we talked about the H from that sort of business perspective as that incubator for things like a Commable and Purple Goat. But I think in a way it's also DH has built the community of disabled people, but for the world to change, it has to interact disabled people. We have to interact with government and business and other charities, and like, so then there's that kind of joining all the dots, isn't there? And I think that's something you've been working on. So more specifically at DH as well, how you kind of bring the community to those other places in society.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of the people that have worked with us sort of over the years, whether it's for a short time or a long time, I think what we've kind of been able to offer, particularly if it's they've worked with us in a voluntary capacity, is that kind of experience and that ability to in some way grow their kind of career. And we've seen, a lot of our team now who've been with us for a long time, they've got their own flourishing blogs and freelance work that they kind of do as well. So, again, it's a way that we're kind of helping, everyone to be a platform and have a voice to then springboard on in their kind of career.
Yeah. And Srin, you've always been quite a technologist and a futurist in your kind of, thinking. Like, how do you sort of look, because I know you've moved a bit, maybe more into that kind of business investment technology space, not only with disability, but any thoughts about the next 5-10 years to how that technology might empower disabled people more?
Yeah, so I think, maybe from the other hats I wear more on the kind of the tech strategy side, I do think there is something around it. I guess the buzzword at the moment is like the creator economy and giving individuals the tools and the platforms to build their own businesses for their needs, rather than, everyone having to just shop on one or two different platforms. It is sort of democratizing sort of access to start your own commerce business. And I think, as Liz, you correctly pointed out, there's just so many amazing disabled entrepreneurs out there that are either building great products or services based on lived experience, or whatever sort of experiences that have been important to them. And I think DH can really be a channel and an outlet to help those entrepreneurs bring their products to more people who need it. I also see a second really big piece around kind of that economic empowerment angle, and it just probably going to be more and more important. I mean, it always was important, but I think in sort of the coming months and years ahead, like I think there's going to be an added sort of focus on that. I think just because its importance is only ever just going to get bigger. Yeah,
agreed. How about you? Obviously, Liz, with your work at Which in the past and the journalism side, any thoughts just, more broadly about kind of journalism and blogs for disabled people?
I was, as you were saying that, Srin, actually, I was thinking about the fact that there are so many more since we started. There's many more sort of lifestyle publications, but also blogs. Like everyone kind of has a blog now, which is fantastic. Everyone's got a kind of platform, and that's growing bigger and bigger. But it's also, there's that sort of some people have done a sort of full-on blog, but actually Instagram is such a huge way to have a blog without having to have that sort of big kind of tech side to it. You can just have a full blog and share your life just on social media, and I think that's really empowering as well, because some people might not be able to do a full blog, or it might not be quite what they want skill set wise. And so actually, seeing so many more different ways to share content and share ideas and share kind of lifestyle and what's happening is really interesting to see. And I think something that I'd really like to do is, again, as I was talking about, like contributor profiles and being a hub, is just help to connect that up better, help to connect, either disabled people to each other or with companies, disabled people to companies. Something actually I've got to mention earlier is I would like to look at us doing more research as well. So helping companies to, if they want to look into something for a new product, or they're looking to make a kind of service more accessible. Our big community at the moment, we've already done a few research projects, but I really want to kind of build on that even more in the future, because to actually enable our community to be able to be an influence and make a difference at the beginning with, as I say, a service or a product, I think that would be really empowering as well.
Yeah, agreed. So lots of progress over 10 years, lots more to do. It's a weird one, isn't it, to think of, like, the general aim was to give a platform and empower people. And we know the numbers of articles and the numbers of readers is bigger than I think our wildest imagination when we first started. And so I guess definitely it's that place for gratitude of all the great, awesome, amazing things happen. And then there's that slight frustration that, like you said, that sex is still a taboo topic around disability.
Yeah.
You start to think surely in 10 years that will have been, better. But I guess that's the thing, you chalk up the wins, but you then mark out the other areas to make those wins in the coming sort of 10 years. But it sounds quite exciting with the different kind of products and tools available, like Srin was saying, kind of empowering entrepreneurs, and you were saying that sort of empowering people with their voice because of social media. So I guess it's the tools are there. It's for the community to really kind of get involved and get stuck in to then make that bigger change as well.
Absolutely.
Well, I guess we're just going to have to see on April 10th, 2031, how it's all gone. So everyone keep that date in your diary.
Srin, how bold are we going to be in another 10 years?
Oh, God. No, I think toupees and wigs by then, right?
Yeah, definitely. Cool. I think we'll probably call it a wrap. We've got the team party a bit later, which we need to get prepared for. I guess that's just another moment to say big, huge respect and thanks to all the team involved. Yeah. It really couldn't be the great place it is without all the people helping drive it. So big thanks to the team. And anything either of you wanted to mention or finish off with?
I was only going to say, added to that, as you said, the team, there's all of us.
So many people have helped us.
Yeah. We've given so much time for completely free, voluntary, and it's because they've got a passion and a vision for what we're going to do even more in the future. And it's we couldn't have done it without them, and we're very, very grateful, whether they're doing a small thing or they're with us kind of all the time. And thank you to you guys as well, because if it wasn't for your vision in your heads in that lovely sunny Californian trip, we wouldn't be where we are today. So thank you to both of you as well.
Thanks to LA. Thanks to our parents. Thanks
Do a
to
long speech now.
It's an Oscar moment now.
Yeah, definitely.
But no, jokes aside, it is amazing all the people that have come on that. And I guess if anyone watching, it's that if you have an idea and you're worried about if it's going to work and you're worried about doing it alone,
try it, see what happens.
Exactly.
Give
and
it a go.
It's really amazing how many people come on the journey when you're just bold enough to put it out there in the first place.
Yeah.
So all right, thanks both to catch up. It was lovely to hang out. It's been a while, the three of us.
Indeed.
And everyone watching, thanks for the comments. I was flagging a few up as we were chatting, and lots of positives coming in. So thanks everyone watching live and afterwards as well. And here's to another 10 years.
All right.
Yeah.
See you. Bye.
See you. Bye.
Bye.